Welcome to the 700 Club. President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke for the first time in a month yesterday. Their main dispute remains Israel's plan to attack the last terror stronghold in Gaza.
Well, as a result of that call, a team of Israeli officials is coming to Washington to discuss alternatives to a military operation against Rafah. CBN's Chris Mitchell reports.
Israel's prime minister says he had a long phone call with U.S. President Joe Biden about the Jewish nation's main goals in Gaza.
The elimination of Hamas, the release of all our hostages, and the promise that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
He's agreed to send a team to Washington to discuss major disagreements, like the Biden administration's position that Israel shouldn't invade Rafah, Hamas's last major stronghold.
Our position is that Hamas should not be allowed a safe haven in Rafah or anywhere else, but a major ground operation there would be a mistake.
Netanyahu insists Hamas will continue to be a major threat if Israel is not allowed to attack the remaining terrorist elements in Rafah. Still, the Biden administration asserts it's on board with Israel's goals, even if it appears opposing an attack on Rafah undermines those goals.
The president emphasized his bone-deep commitment to ensuring the long-term security of Israel.
The United Nations World Food Program says if the fighting doesn't halt in Gaza, nearly half of its 2 million people could starve to death.
There are about 1.1 million people in catastrophic level of hunger.
The food agency asserts if it can't get 300 trucks of aid into Gaza every day, the famine could spread all across the Gaza Strip. Israel says it's not stopping the aid trucks, but the UN fails to distribute much of the food, and trucks are often hijacked or looted by Hamas and criminal gangs. The Israeli government said its troops killed some 20 terrorists and arrested 200 more in a major hospital that Hamas tried to take back control.
Every single hospital that we've searched has been used by Hamas as a weapon of war.
The army also killed a top Hamas commander who was armed and hiding in the Shifa hospital. This morning, the White House also announced Secretary of State Blinken will visit Saudi Arabia and Egypt in coming days in an effort to broker a hostage deal and cease fire. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, I hope our government continues to put the pressure on Hamas, not on Israel. What Hamas is doing is absolutely horrific, and it didn't stop on October 7th. To use a hospital as a base of operations for a military campaign under international law, that's a war crime. To use civilians, whether it's their homes or mosques or schools or synagogues or churches as some kind of shelter, again, that's a war crime. To take hostages and keep them, civilian hostages and keep them, that's a war crime. In all this discussion of war crimes, let us keep the attention on where it really belongs. Hamas is the one that started this. Until they surrender unconditionally, until they turn all the hostages over, lay down their arms, there will be no peace. Hamas has to cease. It can't go forward. Israel can't live with Hamas in charge of Gaza. They have vowed repeatedly to wipe Israel off the map. It was in their founding charter. They're part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They're ideologues to the core. And they have vowed to repeat October 7 again and again and again. Israel can't have that. I would say America can't have that either. World peace is at stake. Hamas has to stop. That's where the pressure needs to be put to bear.